Well, here we are, the final explainer in our Medieval England series. And we've absolutely saved the most dramatic, the most legendary story for last. So picture this. It's the 25th of October, 1415. There's an English army standing in a muddy field in northern France. And they are exhausted, they are sick, and they are completely trapped. Their army is tiny, about 6,000 men. A lot of them are suffering from dysentery after this grueling march. We're talking over 260 miles in just 17 days. They are a long, long way from home, a long way from safety. And then you look across the field. Blocking their path to the port of Calais is the French army. And they are confident, they're fresh, and they're on their own turf. Now, estimates vary, but the French had somewhere between 12,000 and an astonishing 36,000 soldiers. At best, the English are outnumbered 5-1. The situation? It looks completely and utterly hopeless. And England won in one of the most famous, most shocking victories in all of military history. So, how on earth did they do it? To really get this incredible battle, you have to understand the man who led them. See, this is a story about a king with absolutely everything to prove, and a will forged in fire. His name was Henry V. He became King of England in 1413 when he was just 26 years old, and his claim to the throne was, well, let's just say it was a little bit shaky. Now, if you've been with us for this whole series, you might remember from our explainer on Richard II, Henry's dad had actually seized the throne. So Henry really needed something big to prove he was the one true king. And what better way to do that than a glorious, undeniable military victory? So he decided to renew England's old claim to the throne of France. Again. The campaign, it started badly. Henry sailed to France in August 1415 with about 12,000 men. And he did capture the town of Harfleur, but the siege took way too long, and disease just tore through his army. By October, he had only 6,000 men left. So the plan changed. Forget conquering, just get to the English-held port of Calais and get home. But the French army blocked his path. There was no way around. He had to fight. Which brings us to the morning of October 25th, St. Crispin's Day. The two armies are facing each other across this narrow, plowed field. The French were so confident they were happy to just wait. But Henry knew his starving, exhausted men couldn't. He had to make the first move. Henry's plan was devastatingly simple. First, he'd advance his whole army to within about 300 meters of the French line. That's prime longbow range. Second, he'd have his thousands of archers hammer these sharpened stakes into the ground to protect against a cavalry charge. And third, he'd unleash a storm of arrows. But here's the thing. Henry had a secret weapon, the battlefield itself. You see, heavy rain overnight had turned that plowed field into a bog of deep, clinging mud. For the French knights who were weighed down by all this heavy plate armor, this wasn't a battlefield. It was a death trap. So as the French charged, sinking into the mud with every single step, the English longbowmen just let loose. And get this, estimates suggest they were firing 1,000 arrows every second. It was this storm of steel and wood that the French knights, literally stuck in the mud, simply couldn't escape. The result was a catastrophe for France. Around 7,000 French soldiers died, including 1,500 of their greatest nobles. English losses? Somewhere around 300. It was just the most lopsided victory imaginable. There was, however, one very dark moment. At one point, Henry feared that the huge number of French prisoners might rearm themselves and rejoin the fight. So he gave an order to kill them. It was a brutal act, controversial even at the time, and it remains one of the most debated decisions in all of medieval warfare. But in that moment, the victory was absolute. Agincourt made Henry V a superstar. He was the most celebrated king in Europe. He returned to England a hero, to cheering crowds and ringing church bells. He pressed his advantage, and in 1420, he achieved the impossible. The Treaty of Troyes was signed, which recognized Henry V as the heir to the French throne. He married the French princess. He had actually done it. England was on the verge of ruling France. And then, in one of history's cruelest twists, Henry V died, not in battle, but from dysentery. Just 2 years later in 1422. He was only 35 years old. He never got to wear the French crown. And this just perfectly illustrates the chaos that followed. The heir to the thrones of both England and France was Henry's son, Henry VI, who was 9 months old. The greatest military triumph was followed almost immediately by political disaster. So, yeah, good luck, everyone. So why does this one battle, fought over 600 years ago, still matter so much? Why do we see it as such a defining moment? Well, first, there's its military significance. Agincourt basically proved that the age of the rich, heavily armored knight was over. An army of trained commoners with better technology and smarter tactics could destroy Europe's most elite fighting force. The whole social order of feudalism was shown to be obsolete on that muddy field. Second, its cultural legacy. Agincourt became a founding myth for England. You know, the story of the plucky underdog triumphing against all odds. It was immortalized nearly 200 years later by William Shakespeare, who gave King Henry that famous St. Crispin's Day speech, and that line, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers." That idea is still a huge part of the English identity today. And third, its political significance. Agincourt is like a mountain peak. It was the absolute highest point of English power in France. But after Henry's death, it was followed by a long, steep decline, with figures like Joan of Arc turning the tide, until by 1453, England had lost almost everything it had gained. Okay, before we finish, 2 quick and brilliant facts. First, the French were so sure they were going to win, they brought a herald, who was basically a medieval journalist, to record their glorious victory. It turned out to be probably the most expensive piece of journalistic confidence in history. Second, Henry was so strict that on that 260-mile march, he banned his soldiers from singing or making any loud noises. Can you imagine? 260 miles of enforced silence. All right, time for a quick knowledge check to see what you've remembered. Question 1. On what famous saint's day did the battle take place? That would be St. Crispin's Day. Question 2. Roughly how outnumbered were the English? You got it, at least 5-1. Question 3. What 2 factors made the battlefield so deadly for the French? Yes, it was the deep mud and that terrifying storm of 1,000 arrows per second. Question 4. What did the Treaty of Troyes achieve? Correct. It made Henry V the official heir to the French throne. Question 5. What was the tragic twist in Henry's story? It was that he died of dysentery aged just 35 before he could become King of France. And finally, question 6. Thanks to Shakespeare, Agincourt became a founding myth of what? That's it. It became a founding myth of English identity. And that is it for the Battle of Agincourt and for our entire series on medieval England. It has been an epic journey through kings, rebellions, and battles that shaped a nation. Thanks so much for joining us, and make sure you subscribe to see what comes next.